Hello, welcome back, Scream Fiend fans. I want you guys to definitely subscribe to the page and definitely hit the like button if you like the video. Now, this is the movie review for The Conjuring. The devil made me do it. Now, when we watched this film, from the moment it started off, it looked more like The Exorcist. And you're like, oh man, this is cool. This is like The Exorcist. So right away, it takes you back to that feel. And they're showing what's happening through a exorcism of an 8-year-old boy. And they get called out for it. As they're noticing activities that are happening with the child. And they're performing this, and this is like almost a rinky-dink Mickey Mouse type of thing that's taking place. But you find out more that they were trying to wait to get approval from the church in order to go ahead and perform this. And then once they get the approval, now it's like, okay, well, let's get them to the church. But there's like, it's not enough time. We got to do it right now. Like, right now. It's not going to work. But the problem was a lot deeper than what they thought. Now, the problem that existed, as we will get further into this, and because it's on HBO Max, which means that everyone has it in their home, we could do a spoiler review. So this one we will be giving details away in case you hadn't seen the movie. You can go ahead and watch it at your own behest. And, don't blame us for anything. Now, the way I look at it is this. This film represented a lot of different angles. And this one wasn't directed by James Wan, which a little things were lost in this one because of it. And I could tell there was a lot of foreshadowing of things to come. It was shot, I would say, pretty much the way it was. The other ones were shot. Maybe we're spoiled from seeing the same thing over and over, but a lot of what was used here was used in The Nun. A lot of scenes I saw was used in a lot of the other movies like La Llorona and all the other films that they created. I've seen a sameness in a lot of their formats. Now, as this story develops more, the boy is dominating. They're making no progress, and then the older son invites this entity into him. And because he does that to save his brother or whatever, now it's into him because he's invited it. So now you have a bigger problem on your hands because now it's jumped from one to the other. What I didn't understand is, and of course it's a movie and you got to move the plot along, but this kid did a whole back bend, ripped big claw marks into the walls, um, tore up half this doggone house, just shanked his dad in the leg, and all they wanted to do and all they did do was move back in the house and act like nothing ever happened. We are so far out of this house, I might not even talk to any of these people again. They would be so far cut off from me. I'm like, I don't even think it's cool to be talking on the phone with these people. We're out. Now, she was getting premonitions, Lorraine, as she was grabbing the hand and holding the little boy. She was having visions of something happening someplace else. So once again, it starts to turn into you know, a Star Wars type of thing. The new series, well, the Force have connected them, but Lorraine has already had these connections since prior movies, but this was a little different. As now, as they going through this back and forth and back and forth, that they going, you know, maneuvering through this web that they're spinning. This poor kid is now infected. He goes crazy, takes out one of his friends because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's controlled, possessed, really, by the entity he invited, so he thinks it's his fault. And now he's convinced that this is what happened to him. So now, because he's convinced, his defense was, that he did it because it wasn't him. He was possessed. And this became the first United States case in which this was done. It was done twice overseas, but it was not successful. As this was the first case in the United States history, as it wasn't successful, but it kind of was successful. This guy was facing the death penalty. And because it was getting so much national attention, plus Ed and Lorraine Warren was involved, it became a spectacle because they were involved in the actual process of the first exorcism. Now back to the movie. Now what was added, which wasn't added to the original case, was this side story where they went to see was there anyone else that found these little totems that was underneath the house. And they found the totem and it looked like, okay, now this isn't a regular possession because he was able to read from the Bible. He was able to have all these emblems around him and had no sign of possession whatsoever. So he seemed cured. But the problem was he was cursed. So because he was cursed, it was entirely different. He didn't invite this. Someone summoned one just to basically harass them. And by doing this and unleash that, they're following someone else's bidding. They're not there on their own will. Now, because it went the way it did, this movie was taking different angles and different tropes, throughout the entire film. Now, everyone was saying about the different acts. Like, man, this act was great, that act was great, or this act should have had more, that act should have had less. Well, I'm gonna say some of the ambient sounds that go along with what was taking place fit, but then they started having a totem in another town. That they once again needed to investigate. And they're only investigating it because they need to know. They need answers. They need to know exactly what is transpiring. Why does this keep happening? Plus, the detectives want to basically put them on display to see what they can do and help them solve the case, which they do, but it becomes a sideshow. And it kind of takes it away from what's really going on. And it's supposed to be connected, but it just needed something for the movie to move along. This movie suffers from having, you want to say, too many cooks in the kitchen. This movie suffers from having to follow the real story, because that's what this whole, you know, what you would say, the whole timeline is followed like real events. So you're trapped. Your creativity is limited based on these real events. So you're stuck following this. Now, while this guy's in jail, he's being tormented by this thing that wants him to complete the cycle by taking himself out. And that's not happening. So he keeps getting intervened with, or someone stops him from doing it. And they keep doing these, enchantments and all of these different things to keep saving him from taking himself out. And all of a sudden, every time they try to do it, something happened, and Lorraine ends up connecting with her and finds out that it's a woman that's doing it. She has no reason or understanding of why this is happening, though. Then, as in all movies, like I said, it's heavy foreshadowing. If you hadn't seen it, I still don't want to spoil this part from you, but I'm just going to say it's like the most obvious thing in the world. And I'm just like, this is too obvious. And the ending was not dramatic. And to me, this film was not scary. It had some eerie moments, but it kind of reminded me of the first Annabelle a little bit. This is not that scary. It started in the beginning being terrifying. Like, man, this is going to be a real terrifying film. Then it's like after that, it never really gets to that moment again. I mean, the ending to me is like, okay, they ended it on love, but still it was like a very disappointing ending, and for me, I just felt like it just didn't hit where it should have hit, as far as the suspense, the ending, the battle scene at the end, the final climax, I just felt that felt short. So I give it 2.5 stars out of 4. I don't think Chase did such a bad job. I just think that his style, just James Wan would have definitely did a few things differently, as he wrote the story, and it was the producer. Some of the things were lost in the sauce, or maybe we just seen a lot of it right now. We've seen it a lot, so that could be the case too. We've seen this over and over again. So, well, anyway, I don't want to take up too much of your time. Let me get out of here. Enjoy the review. And if you didn't see it, go watch it. Especially if you've seen the other ones. They fit right on in. I'm out. Thank you.